Good morning and welcome to Connect Church Community Online. I'm Brother Scott Wright and I'm glad to be with you this morning and looking forward to sharing with you. This is part three of our series, The Christian Gladiator. As our first two parts says, man, it didn't look good, man. I'm telling you, it's like at this particular time in Corinth, it's like, man, Paul's trying to tell them, you know what, it's going to be some bad times. There's some, man, they're going to be lifted up. There's some going to have it great. Some's going to have money and things. He said, but some aren't going to have it so good. There's going to be some hard times and things. So he started talking, and these were saved, as it were, the apostles to the last days. Now, if they were the last days, as we've been talking about, man, we really in the last days. And so the second one then was about the victims. When you start looking at them, you know, we've become fools for Christ's sake. It's like hissing and booing, man, and you're a loser, you know. And sometimes, you know, in America, we don't have all that, you know. And I remember in the story of Samson, when he was, he was powerful, and they didn't know where his power come, and they're trying to trick him, and they finally got him, you know, his Nazarite vow, and they cut his hair, and it's like what it represented, and he lost all of his power, and then it said, let's go get Samson, that we can have sport with him. You know, and that's kind of the thing with this persecution here. It's kind of the thing where, you know, let's get some Christians and make fun of them. And like I said, we're not in those days right now, but it could happen just like that here in America. But they are, and you can see, I mean, they are people, they are countries that are added all the time to the world where they're persecuting Christians, and you can look that up. And like I said, we're not going to get into that in these devotions, but there's a lot of it in the persecuted church all across the world. And so when we started looking at this, it said they were weak, they were despised, and you know, and it's like these victims were actually volunteers. They were doing it, they volunteered to serve God. You know, they weren't made to do it. And sometimes as you see that, I think that's the amazing part, and you can see it even in today's in here. And then it says, it goes on, and it says in 1 Corinthians 4:11, it says, even to this present hour we both hunger and thirst and are naked and are buffeted, and we have no certain dwelling place. Man, I mean, you're talking about it going it pretty good, pretty bad right here. They're hungry, they're thirsty, they don't have any clothes. They're being punished or buffeted, hit, and even, whipped, all kind of things that they're being in it, and we don't know where we're going to be at next day. So it's kind of a lot different than what we might have here, hungry, thirsty, and anyway. And look at verse 12. It says, and labor, working. It said, working with our own hand, and being reviled, we bless. Man, I'm telling you, sometimes, bad things happen. We just have to bless the Lord. Lord's going to take care of us, and so much, we talk about faith, and it's almost like, man, we don't have to have faith in our society, man. We don't have to worry about where the bills are going to be paid, where we're going to live at, what we're going to do. With this, we have so many choices that are out there, but these, they didn't have that. And it says, being reviled, we bless. Being persecuted, we suffer it. And it's like, these are Christians. These are Christians that were right with the Lord. And sometimes you'll hear kind of like a health and wealth gospel that, you know what, if you're saved, you won't never have any problem. Man, if you're saved, you won't never be down or discouraged or defeated. Let me tell you something. That is a part of life, man. And then there's other people who might struggle in areas that you may not, and that's what he's saying here. You may have it very good, but there's others who don't, and if you do, remember those that don't, and then if you don't, remember that God is faithful and he's going to take care of you and he's going to bless you, and you're not the only one that's going through this kind of thing. And it says, and so here, when they began to look at this and they start thinking about it, man, it's like, what's going wrong right here? And it's like they become violated by this world, as it were. But not just that, they were vagabonds in this world. They were homeless, man. They were itinerant wanderers, as it were. They worked hard, and yet they were reviled. They were persecuted and suffered. Look at verse 13. in 1 Corinthians 4, it says, being defamed, we entreat. It says, we are made. Now listen to this now. And the King James right here, it says, we are made as the filth of the world. Now, I don't know, but I'm just telling you, you're just a dirty mess in this world. Why are y'all even here, as it were, referring to these apostles, these Christians in the early church right here? And it's like the persecution was everywhere, and there were pain and anguish and all these things. And it's sitting here, you are made as the filth of the world. Wow. And you are the offscouring of all things unto this day. You are the part, you're like the sweepings that, when you sweep and you just throw it out, out the door or whatever. You're like what is swept up and you've thrown out, defamed. We're the filth of the earth. We're no good. We're like sweepings, to sweep this up and throw it in the garbage. We're like a broken glass, as it were, in the Greek word here. But, that's not where it ends, okay? Yes, man, there's victims, man. The view for some people is good from where they're perched at. But the view from some, man, it's just like artistic terms, There's a bird's eye view where, man, you can look down and see how bad some people have. And then there's the worm's eye view where you're looking down and like, whoo, man, it'd be nice to have this or to do this or have these blessings or situation. And so that leads us to the victory, okay? There's a victory. Man, he keeps saying, he's like, follow Jesus, man. He's like, let's set some examples. Let's do what's right. Even if we're thrown in to the Colosseum and wild beasts are going to tear at us. Even if gladiators are going to have their swords and their weapons at us. Remember that you are a vessel of honor. And he's saying, will you be ready? Will you stand for what's right? And he said, we are stewards of God. We are servants of God. And we're all going to stand before the judgment of Christ. And I'm not going to be in judgment for what you've had to do. I'm going to be in judgment for what I have done. And man, I'm telling you what, there are things I've said and done. Man, it's like, please, Lord, forgive me. And it's like, because there is no good in any of this. And it's like my pride, and it's like, they deserve to hear that. They deserve that, and I just get to thinking, you know what? I'm glad that Jesus is the judge and not people here on the earth. And let me tell you, Caesar may put us out, man. Herod we might be persecuted, man. We might have those wild animals and things trying to tear us apart, man. But let me tell you something. We are vessels of honor, and we must realize the value of faithfulness. Man, I'm going to tell you what. It is required of a steward to be faithful. Man, it don't have to be, and I think we look at this world and we think, man, they're not successful. And it's like, what are we measuring that on? Money, finances, being at the top? Let me tell you something. That's not the same as God judging. Man, these people were suffering. They're the scourging. They were the stuff that is swept away. And yet they are that great reward and the value of faithfulness. These vessels of honor. And then the thing that we must see in closing here today is the virtue before God. Let me tell you something. It is not our righteousness. It is His. Let me tell you, I cannot make it, but Jesus helped us. He died on Calvary so that we could be victorious, even if we die in the arena, even if it's overwhelming here. Hang on, man, I'm telling you, that virtue before God's going to be counted as righteousness. And may God help us. Thank you for listening to the Gladiator Part 3. God bless you, and may you have a wonderful day.